Hi, this is Burp Studios and welcome to the unexciting world of game deving. Today, we're learning how I implemented this segmented worm type creature into my game. So this series of videos that I will be releasing is inspired by all the things I learned while making my first game, The Art of the Kill. And in each of these videos, we're going to be using GML scripting language, and we're going to assume that you have some basic understanding of GameMaker. It just helps things move along a lot quicker. So what I did there, I created a sprite, and then I centered its origin. That's all I did. Here, I'm creating two objects, because really, that's all you need. In fact, you could probably even do it with one object. But just for the sake of making things a little simpler, I'm adding two objects, a head and a body. Here, this is the worm head object. Under the create event, all we're doing for now is just declaring two variables. The first one is speed, or how quickly your worm moves, and the next one is turn speed, or how quickly the worm rotates towards its target. So that's it for the create event for now. Now we're under the step event. Under the step event, we're going to just tell the worm how to rotate towards the player. Now I can do a whole 15-minute video on just this chunk of code that I'm writing here, but I don't want to do that for this video because this video isn't about how to rotate towards a player. This is about how to create a segmented worm. So I'm going to link into the description another video that goes into detail on how this particular chunk of code works, and I'll include visuals and all of that. But just know that this chunk of code here, pretty much what it's doing is it's saying, hey, if our target direction is greater than our current facing direction, rotate counterclockwise. If our target's direction is less than our facing direction, then rotate clockwise. And then there's you have to add a condition because, I mean, for the most part that would work, except that there's an issue when your target crosses that invisible threshold between 0 degrees and 360 degrees. So when it crosses that boundary line, your worm tends to get confused, and instead of just continuing to rotate towards its target, it'll completely stop and rotate the other way around, all the way around until it's facing its target. So we are adding that condition. I think it's these next couple lines right here. I'm adding that condition that says, hey, if this happens, don't stop and rotate the other way. Just continue rotating in the way you were rotating. Again, if you want to see the visuals, you want a more profound explanation, I'll link a video in the description, and then you can check that out. So there's a couple more lines here that I'm going to write before we can move on to actually creating the segmented worm. I do want to take this time to just say that once again, this series is inspired by the release of my first game. And what I would like to do is, because I know during that journey, there were a lot of games that I would see and I would wonder to myself, man, how did they do that? Or I want to do something similar to that. How did they do this? And that's kind of what I want to do here. So I want to open this up and have you guys check out my game. And if there's anything in that game that you want to know how I did, feel free to just shoot me an email, like a detailed sort of explanation on what it is that you want to know how to do, and I'll create a tutorial showing you how I created that specific feature. So we're almost done here, just maybe 3 more lines, and then we can move on. There's a couple of different ways to create these segmented creatures. There's another way that involves storing coordinates in a DSQ. And maybe I'll do another video on that, like different ways to create these segmented creatures. But the way I'm showing you now is just like a really, really simple way to do it, like bare bones. So here I am just kind of testing out the head object just to make sure that it's working properly, and then I haven't misspelled anything. And no, yeah, it's working good. Our head is rotating towards its target, which in this case is the mouse cursor. So here we are back at the worm head object under the create event. We are going to create the actual body now, and we're going to do that using a for loop. The famous for loop. I equals 0, I is less than some variable, I plus plus, or I minus minus. So in this case, our disk length, or how long our worm's going to be. So this is going to create all the segments. So there's our first disk I equals instance create. Now the cool thing about doing this, where you have your disk I equals instance create, is that object's ID number is stored in that variable called disk I. Now this next line of code here is where I want to kind of go into some detail. Our creator. So under each segment, we're creating a variable called creator. And then we're gonna, okay, so for those of you who don't know, every time an object is created in GameMaker, an instance or an object, GameMaker automatically assigns that object an ID number. So in our example, our head would be assigned ID number 10000 automatically by GameMaker. And then the next segment after that would be assigned number 10001. And then the next segment after that, 10002, and so on and so forth. So what we're doing is we're grabbing that ID number that's assigned by GameMaker, and we're storing it in a variable called creator. So that creator variable will hold each segment's individual ID number. This is how each segment knows who to follow, because it's just supposed to follow the segment in front of it. And this is how it's going to know. This little line of code that I'm writing right here is pretty much the secret sauce. Creator minus 1. That's it. So creator, in other words, for example, this segment right here at the end, its ID number is 10002. So all we're saying is follow your ID number minus 1, which will be the segment directly in front of it. So we're saying that here. Follow your ID number 10002 minus 1, and that gives you 10001, which is the segment directly in front of it, and that's who it's going to follow. And then we do the same thing with the next segment. 10001 minus 1 equals 10000, and so on and so forth. And that's how each segment knows who to follow. I mean, it is that simple. It's not rocket science. Very easy. Anyone can do this. You can do this. However, there is one issue. I don't know why, but for some reason with GameMaker, if you have your head instance object created by some other object, I mean, this works perfectly, no problem. But if you place an instance of the head in the room, and then you start the game, for some reason, the ID number skips. So that's what I was doing there. I was adding that condition where it says, hey, if you're the segment directly behind the head, your ID number is going to be the head's ID number plus 1. So that's kind of like a safety net thing I did there, because sometimes you might get some errors. So I added that if I equals 0, or if you're the first segment after the head, this is your ID number. Okay, so now we're done with the head object. Now we're moving on to the body object. So under the body object, under the create event, we're declaring 3 variables: the creator, setting it to -1, or in other words, no one or nothing. And then we're setting a delay variable, which is how often, the delay is how often the coordinates of the person in front of you or the segment in front of you, how often that's updated. And then we're setting our alarm 0 to be a delay, set to room speed times delay. Okay, so now alarm 0. Every time this alarm goes off, we're going to store a direction in a variable called dir. The direction is the current segment's position towards the segment in front of its position, which, like I said, creator -1.x, creator -1.y. So that's our direction. So every time this alarm goes off, we update that direction over and over and over. So here we have alarm 0 equals room speed times delay. So we just keep setting that alarm. We just have it go off over and over again, and then it updates the coordinates. And here I am testing it, and sure enough, there it is. All the segments are created, 20, count them, they're there. The head's following the mouse, and all the segments are just following the segment in front of it using that one line of code, creator -1. And that is how simple it is. Not hard at all. Anyone can do this. Well, I hope someone somewhere found that useful. I've also, once again, I've written out the entire code for how all this works, and it's in the comments below. So be sure and give that a thumbs up so that other people can see it. And remember, you too can directly influence what tutorials you want to see, what tutorials I create. Check out the my game, The Art of the Kill. If there's anything in that game that you want to know how to do yourself, shoot me an email, and I'll post up a video, a tutorial explaining how I did that. So we've come to the unexciting part of the video where I shamelessly ask you to subscribe, like, follow, rub your belly, tap your head, all that madness. It really does make a difference. And as always, be kind to each other and stay safe.